If you guys have not been aware, Tara Reade actually had an interview with Tucker Carlson. Now, this was actually on location. So Tucker Carlson spoke to Tara Reade in Moscow in person. So I do want to remind everyone that Tara Reade is still in Moscow. You have to remember that she went to Russia to promote her book. I believe they were trying to actually translate her book into different languages. She received, a call from Representative Matt Gaetz that it might be wise for her to return to the United States because she would probably be detained, right? So remember, Tara Reade does have allegations of assault or essay against Joe Biden. So let's all remember that. So I just want to remind everyone, Tara Reade is still in Moscow, right? So let's go ahead and get into a little bit of this.
So your lawyers have sued the Biden Department of Justice for misconduct. Tell us about the suit, why you filed it, what you hope to achieve by it.
Yeah, well, my attorney actually had filed a complaint with the Inspector General about the way I was treated by the FBI and DOJ and how they were harassing me. And they didn't receive a response. Surprise, surprise. So after we waited, there was no response. He filed a tort claim, and it's for $10 million. And basically what the outcome will be, hopefully, is that they will open my FBI files and then expunge them. And the criminal case that has been opened against me in Northern California, the one that's sealed, will be revealed. Because that was opened by DOJ and FBI, where they took all my Twitter communications, now X, it's called, but Gmail, you name it, all my social media was taken under sealed warrants. The only reason I know about the sealed warrants and it was publicized is because a Twitter lawyer had called and told me that this has happened, and they had made a motion in court to tell me. And
so that part right there, just in reference to the social media, that's a privacy issue, right? So think about all the things that has happened to Tara Reade ever since she made allegations of essay against President Biden, right? Like all these different things, like she had difficulty getting employment. Her daughter has had threats made towards her as well, not just Tara Reade. Tara Reade is now kind of stuck in Moscow, at least at this point in time. I don't know how long this is going to be, but it's been a while. So she's still there. I have to remind you, even in December, she was not able to spend the holidays with her family in the United States. Like she was still in Russia. And now it appears they have managed to get into her social media. This is crazy. Like the US government behaves and acts like a mob.
And so this case had impaneled a grand jury, so it went pretty far. So it's just like shy of indictment. But what are they going to indict me for? Well, they won't tell me. Now, as an American citizen, that's infuriating, right?
But I think I am confused. I think a lot of people watching this are confused. You, of course, are most famous for recounting in public your experience, a sexual assault, and I think it was a sexual assault by then Senator Joe Biden in an elevator when you worked for him.
Not an elevator, corridor.
Corridor, I beg your pardon. And unlike a lot of people who make these claims, you have contemporaneous evidence in your mother's call to Larry King Live, which came out years later. It's an amazing story. And I think it's a credible story. But what did you do wrong? How did you wind up the subject of a sealed potential indictment of a criminal investigation by the U.S. government? What was your crime?
I think
she has a essay accusation against the president of the United States. And, you know, at the time, he wasn't the president of the United States, but he was running for president of the United States. And, you know, when she came out publicly in reference to the CNN interviews, but prior to that, at the time, he was a senator. Joe Biden was a sitting senator at that point in time. So DC protects DC. The government is going to protect those politicians, particularly the ones that are establishment, like Joe Biden.
Not shutting up. I think because I just wouldn't stop talking. I kept trying to push for an investigation. If you recall Jen Psaki,
yes.
she was asked one question one time. Peter Juicy, I think, asked the question and said, you know, about me, about Tara Reade. And she said, oh, that's been litigated. It was never litigated. She lied outright. It's never been litigated. It's never been investigated. You know, and I was asking for an investigation. All they did was pay money to have media hit pieces done on me.
But of course they did. And you were attacked. The whole believe all women thing turned out not to be true, I guess.
Right. No, it's not true. There's no Me Too.
There's no Me Too. But a criminal investigation into you is a completely separate category.
Yeah.
And really an escalation of a kind most Americans can't understand. Like, why would they possibly be criminally investigating you?
They come up with different reasons to do so. Like, they'll try to do whatever they can to Tucker's question sometimes. Killer Tomato says Carl Tuckerson is the master is always confused. I know, like, his questions sometimes I'm like, come on, dude, like, you know better than this. The thing is that people have to remember is that even when we think back to former President Bill Clinton, right, and Monica Lewinsky, I think she may still be there. I have to double check. But remember, things became so bad for Monica Lewinsky, although situation different in the sense that Monica Lewinsky really did feel like she was in a relationship with Bill Clinton and it was consensual, right? Monica Lewinsky had to leave the country. I don't know if everybody knows this. Monica Lewinsky had to leave the country. And I sit back sometimes and I think about all the women that defended Bill Clinton. You know, Hillary Clinton, the same woman who talks about protect women's rights and fight for women, wasn't trying to fight for Monica Lewinsky and the fact that this grown man took advantage of an intern. So we have to think about those things. But if I remember correctly, she left the country. Now they're trying to make it so that Tara Reade cannot re-enter the country. So that means she can't see her family unless they go to Russia to see her. And then I don't know how that's going to work out for them if they try to come back into the country. Do you see where this is going?
Well, there were two. Yeah. I mean, the first one was for perjury when I was an expert witness, and it took me lawyers and thousands of dollars to clear that. They had to drop that case. And then they came at me with the sealed case, which I can't do anything about because I'm not even supposed to know about it.
And this is the federal government?
Federal, the DOJ, FBI. And so
so there is a
sealed case.
So Soviet, it's hard to believe it's what you're saying is true, but I think it's checkable. There's a sealed case against you. They're investigating you for a crime. They won't tell you what the crime is.
Right.
But it clearly is a felony, or they claim it's a felony.
Right.
Correct?
And I posted the sealed warrant, and that's been in the media. So the sealed warrant is visible. You can see the case number. Journalists have tried to look it up. My attorneys tried to look it up. No one will tell them what it is. Then they started coming at me in more subvert ways, which was, basically harassment, death threats. Particularly it amped up when Marjorie Taylor Greene and Representative Matt Gaetz asked me to testify in the whistleblowers panel. Like I was going to talk about how difficult it is to be a whistleblower because I'd been so targeted.
I almost forgot about that, but that did happen before she was stuck in Russia, like right before that. And they found a way to try to shut that down, to prevent Tara Reade from being a part of that particular panel. Listen, there has not been an investigation into Joe Biden in reference to these allegations. I want to say it again. There has not been an investigation into Joe Biden in reference to Tara Reade's allegations. How is that okay? How is that allowed? I don't understand this. So they can have an investigation into Donald Trump in reference to SA allegations, right? But where's that same investigation into Joe Biden? Tara Reade came forward about this information way before Joe Biden ran for president. And no investigation. How is this allowed?
And then when I was about to testify, I'll get to that part, but when I was about to testify, things really amped up as far as threats and undermining me. And it was hard to get a job. People thought I was a security threat. there were, innuendos. My reputation was destroyed, and we've talked about this. So my attorney basically said, okay, that's that. We're going to, file this complaint. And this came after, when I was here in Moscow, Russia, I came here to publicize my book and to oversee the translation of it. And I did an interview with Channel 1. And
which is a Russian TV channel.
And Channel 1 is sanctioned, apparently. And apparently that was, I was here for vacation, so I had packed literally for 5 days. Didn't have much with me. And then about midway through, I started getting, messages that I was from former intelligence. They were trying to get me messages, whistleblowers, like, look, you're in danger of being indicted if you go back.
Pause for a second. Just want to answer, Shara, because he's the current president, Sabby. Yeah, but when Tara Reade came forward, Joe Biden was not president. That's the point. I just want to remind everybody of that. He was not president at that time when she came forward.
Talk to my lawyers about
Indicted for what?
For FARA, the Foreign Registration Act, which is the same thing they went after Maria Butina for. And
Paul Manafort.
And Maria Butina, if you read, there's a really good article called The Spy Who Wasn't, who really lays out why she wasn't a spy, and she wasn't. She's now working for the State Duma, but she was definitely targeted. But that set the precedent, Paul Manafort in her case.
But wait, just to be clear, you're an American who has accused the sitting president of sexually assaulting you while you worked for him as a young woman. And you have evidence to prove that that's true.
Right.
Contemporaneous evidence, which I think is key. And all of a sudden, you're the criminal because you wind up in a foreign city and you do a TV interview. Am I missing something?
Why does Tucker, ask this question? Why does Tucker Carlson pretend like he doesn't understand how the system and the state works? Why does he pretend like he doesn't understand how government agencies work? Particularly when it comes to foreign policy. He hosted Fox News for how many years, millions of followers and viewers. Why is it that when it comes to corruption and particularly the system that is in place, why does he pretend like he doesn't understand how these things work? Anybody else ever notice that? Anybody? Just something that I've noticed. Just something I've noticed.
Well, in 2019, if you recall, one of the smears that they made against me was that I was a Russian asset, even though I had no ties to Russia. Immediately out the gate. That was the Biden campaign told that to the New York Times. They said that was their first response, not a denial, not, anything else. They said, oh, she's a Russian asset. And that started in 2019 and got spread around. And then it continued on and had a life of its own because it was spread by former Obama staff, Edward Isaac Dovier, people like that, who have some clout on social media and people listen. So unfortunately, there was that kind of overhanging it. So when I came to Moscow.
So you make this allegation against the president of the United States, then a candidate, a credible allegation, once again. I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't think it was credible. I think it is credible. I think it's true. And they don't even respond. They just accuse you of being a traitor to your country.
Immediately. That was the first response, not even a denial at first. So I thought that was interesting.
And the media amplify those.
Oh, yes. New York Times amplified it. Washington Post did. Yep. Everyone did. Politico, they did their due diligence for the empire, I guess. I didn't really understand the media at that time. Now you have to understand, I'm a regular citizen. I don't have a PR team. I don't have lawyers. Now I have a lawyer, but then I didn't have resources.
Where were you living?
I was living in California
She was living in California and she had a horse. I don't know if you guys know this about Tara Reade, but obviously she loves horses. She had a horse. I'm pretty sure she has not seen. She just has been back here. She hasn't been back to the United States. It's really crazy. And this is why some women don't come forward, because I just think about all the ways that Joe Biden and the power that he has, the way that he pretty much destroyed Tara Reade's future. You think about all the opportunities that she was not able to maintain because she came out against who at that time was Senator Biden. So just think about that, how he used his power and his public persona and his resources to basically make sure that she would never, elevate her career.
Really naive about, the media. And now I understand. I think a lot of people in 2019, 2020 were still a little
And just to be
naive.
clear, it sounds like you've been a fairly liberal Democrat your whole life.
I was. I really had, really believed. I worked for Leon Panetta as an intern. I worked for Joe Biden. I worked as a Democratic operative on congressional campaigns. I was trained by Homeland Security. I was trained by Seattle Police to help with domestic violence. I was a trainer. I donated my time. I worked for Democrats. I believed in it wholeheartedly. And so it's been heartbreaking when I came forward with evidence how I was treated and how I still am treated. Like to this day, like I get called right now a defector, a traitor. I did back then before I left the US.
I keep stepping.
The same way that Tucker was called a traitor when he went to Moscow previously to do that interview with Vladimir Putin, right? Like, again, they don't want you talking to, it's crazy. It's a mess. I just want to correct this really quick. Travers, no, she had a horse. Take that away. Take that away. She had a horse. I just wanted to correct that to make sure that nobody misunderstood that. We're going a little bit more here. I'm sorry.
On your story, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's just a remarkable story when you lay it out and give the timeline. It's amazing what's happened to you. So just back to where you were before I interrupted you. So you're here on vacation to get a translation of your book done.
Yes.
And you do an interview with local TV, and then you start getting messages from informed people who you trust. Tara, you're in danger of being indicted. And what happens then?
Well, I would be put into a cage because with the FAR Act, it's a backdoor into the Espionage Act, essentially. It's the Federal Registration Act. So you have to register as a foreign agent. Registration Act. Yeah. It's administrative. They never used to even use it, but now they're using it as a backdoor into espionage. So you might recall the Uhuru Group, right?
Very well.
The
black nationalists that we defended.
Right. They're being sentenced this month up to 10 years in prison. And I've read through all their whole legal case, and I have a law degree, so I'm interested in those things. And you know what the charge is? Sowing discord. So I want people to really hear this, because sowing discord shouldn't be a crime, and they shouldn't be able. But they're being
sowing discord.
Sowing discord. That's the term under the FAR Act and the backdoor into the Espionage Act. And so they're facing up to 10 years in prison or more.
Everybody hear that? So remember, that is Chairman Amali Yeshitela. So he's been on this show a couple times, right? He's actually, Tara Reade interviewed him as well. I think she was the first person I saw interview him, I think, or either her or Democracy Now! It might've been her though. But she's interviewed him as well. But you see how they're trying to imprison them for sowing discourse? It's wild and crazy.
Their passports have been taken away. The sentencing happens this month. They have no ties to Russia. They simply spoke out against the proxy war against, Russia via Ukraine. And for that, they've been punished. And, what I want people to hear is that it's not just January 6 people that are being targeted by the DOJ.
No.
It's to the left. It's to the right.
That's right.
It's someone like me that just had a claim against my former employer that should have been investigated properly and should have been adjudicated in a proper way. And I should have been treated with some dignity instead of having my life torn to pieces.
And I want to stop it there. You can watch the rest on Tucker Carlson's Twitter account here. Tara's been on the show a couple times before, so you guys can always watch those interviews if you want to hear the story about what Tara is alleging that Joe Biden did to her. But what I want people to understand is this is how power works. Like the fact that powerful people are not being held accountable. Joe Biden isn't being held accountable because he's in a position of power. And it's not uncommon for abusers to be in a position of power, particularly when they know that they can get away with it and they're not going to be held accountable. It is very sad. It's very, extremely disappointing when I hear people who say that they care so much about women's rights and, not going back and all that stuff. Where are all those women that were marching when Donald Trump won? And they were marching saying, we won't go back. Where are all those women when it comes to Tara Reade's situation? How many of them have spoken out against Joe Biden in reference to this? Even if you do not believe what Tara Reade is saying, an investigation is still owed, and the investigation has not happened. So this is why it's dangerous to be a stan. This is why it's dangerous to be a Biden stan, a Trump stan, that type of thing. Because when it comes to the actual law, sometimes people, if you're a stan, you'll just overlook what the law is saying that is supposed to happen. And there should have been an investigation. It's just not right. I don't care whether you believe Tara or not. It's not right that there has not been an investigation. Now, today is Mother's Day. Now, Tara Reade sent this to me and she said I could share it with you guys. So I had permission. This was the last time that Tara Reade saw her daughter. So she sent me this picture here. There's Tara and her daughter. And there's a fluffy cat, a very fluffy cat. So that was the last time Tara Reade said this is the last time that she saw her daughter. It's Mother's Day. So these powers, the oligarchs, like the people that control so much, they control so much to the point that you have people that cannot come back to this country. Not just Tara Reade. Edward Snowden can't come back. Right? Think about the political prisoners that can't come back. Assata Shakur can't come back. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we really living in here? Is this really the home of the free? Are we really free if people can't leave and come back? So regardless to how you look at this particular situation, Tara Reade is still owed an investigation into Joe Biden. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on politically, she is owed that. And that has not happened. Something to think about.